Burlesque Stripped Down, episode number 42, also known as the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Welcome back once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Velvet Eau Claire. I am, as always, your guide through all of the secrets. They're saucy secrets and they're sexy secrets. Sometimes they're not so sexy secrets, because those exist as well. From us, the ladies and gents behind the tassels, thank you again so much for pressing play today. I do have the beautiful, the fabulous, the talented Millie Dollar back with me again today. If you listened on Monday, she was our wonderful guest interview, and we got into a lot of really, really interesting things, a lot of giggles as well, but we talked a lot about, kind of confidence and self-assurance, and we talked about this, the double-edged sword of social media and what it does as far as, and the Photoshop and the what did we call it? Face boosting. I love it. So good. And twatting. Yeah. It was so good. So if you've missed that, definitely as soon as this episode is over, go back and check that out. You'll be able to find this episode and that episode all at her kind of home base, which is at burlesquestrippeddown.com/Millie, Millie. So let's go ahead and jump in. Millie has some really interesting topics. First of all, hello, Millie, once again.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
It is great to have you back again. I know it was really good, and I think we could have talked, for hours longer.
Yeah, I do seem to have that effect on people.
No, myself as well, and I love that when we can get into a really authentic conversation where it's not just me asking and you answering, and when it really becomes authentic as a conversation. And one thing that we sort of started to kind of touch on, but I would love to get in deeper here for our hot tip episode today, is this idea of being a performer and yet dealing with mental health issues. As I think, I would almost venture to say the majority of us do have some sort of, we're dealing with something in this mental health realm, right? Yeah. And so I'd love to hear if you have some tips for those people who do feel that they have some mental health issues, whether they're diagnosed or not. And how to, still be an effective performer and how to still manage your life as a creative professional or performer of some sort, dealing with these mental health issues. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think having mental health issues, it doesn't so much affect you on stage, more backstage, and in terms of corresponding with your fellow performer as well, because when you are on stage, you're going to have that massive adrenaline boost. And often when you get that adrenaline boost, and I'm sure that this is something lots of people have dealt with, but the next day after you've done your shows and you're at home and the makeup's off and you're chilling out and you suddenly get the burlesque blues. So it's like when that adrenaline has worn off and suddenly you just feel really shitty and you don't feel happy. And it's like you've had this massive high and it's followed by this huge low. So I know that it's quite a common thing. So to be on stage, generally you'll be fine until the next day, because no matter what, as performers, we always pull up our stockings and get on out there and do the job. For mental health and people that suffer with issues with their mental health, you need to have a bit of time to look after yourself first, because if you don't look after yourself first, you're not really going to be in the position to help others as much as you may want to. And it can be very rewarding to help others, but really to get better and to make yourself feel more of a part of the scene or a social structure, I guess, is to learn that you might have these indicators that tell you I need to go and I need to look after myself, or I need to do this, or I need to make sure that I'm doing the best thing for me as a person, and so on.
Absolutely. Taking care of yourself first and doing that. So what kind of advice would you have to someone, let's actually take a beginning performer, for example, someone who's not necessarily, doesn't have that experience of the high of the stage and isn't maybe even sure that burlesque is something that's really right for them, but they're very interested, but they also might be more introverted or have some, mental health issues of some sort. What kind of advice would you give them?
I know a lot of people when they first come to burlesque, it's because of that boost or that adrenaline rush or that feeling of getting up on stage and being a different person. getting into a persona, becoming a different character. Because I know that when you're going through various issues, whether it be mental health or if it's stuff going on in your personal life, it can be nice to get away from that and feel like that's not something that this person you currently are whilst on stage is having to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So for new performers, I would say that it's great to have, say, like a burlesque mother, really, is have someone that you know you can talk to, people you know that you can get in touch with and say, I'm starting to feel a bit unsure. And whether these be burlesque performers or just close friends, or even if it's someone that you admire. I mean, I know I've had a lot of people who have messaged me that I haven't actually met personally yet, but I'm still willing to give advice. And a lot of people in the scene are, because we are very much a self-made scene.
Mm-hmm.
So for new performers, it would be to try and reach out if you ever need it, and don't worry about the way you might appear by contacting someone, or worry about upsetting people by contacting them. If they are open to it, and if you have people that you speak to on Facebook, on threads, or in groups like the Big Sister, Big Brother Burlesque group, which I know has helped a lot of people, then that's a good way of starting to build up relationships to the point where you know you've got someone to talk to, you've got someone whose advice you can trust.
It is important to have that. No matter where you fall on the mental health spectrum, as it is, mental health aside, it's important to have that kind of support for anything that you end up going through.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great that people kind of have this sort of chosen family as well, because I know that people have various issues with their families, or have gone through various different periods in their life that makes it hard to speak to their families. So it's brilliant that there is a family out there that people can get involved in, even if they don't feel like it yet because they are new, which is why I think things like workshops and even if it's just one-off lessons can be a very, very positive thing. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of my own students, I run workshops every week in Liverpool. They call me Mama Dollar.
Oh, I love that.
But we've all become very close, and they've all got to know each other as well. And I have a core group of about 6 or so people that are there every lesson, and they've all become this little family that see each other once or twice a week, and they know they can talk to each other, and they all get along really well. So I feel really happy that I was able to bring them all together.
Now, I have one more question as far as, because we talked about when you're kind of newer to burlesque. What about for established performers who may be dealing with any sort of, like I said, mental health issues, this on the spectrum there? Because you mentioned how you took a year off, and I'd love to talk about how a performer, or a person in general, really, might know when, because we always say to be kind to ourselves, right? And to listen to ourselves and go with what our body needs, right?
Yeah.
But then also there's that element of pushing yourself through, even through some of the hard times, because you come out stronger. So in your perspective, where is the kind of that balance between those two ideas?
Well, it can be tricky, because I know a lot of people will keep pushing themselves more and more and more. Some people because they don't want to be seen to fail, or some people because it's their job and they are reliant on it. Which was the position that I was in when I decided I needed to take a step back. For me, I got to the point where I was really struggling to be around the scene and burlesque in general, because I just wasn't in a great way with my mental health at all. It was probably, I think 2015 was probably the worst year I've ever had. And which was a shame, because it was the year that I had my 30th birthday and got married, and it was a really, really hard year. So,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know it's fine. That's part of life, and I can only reflect from that and realize that I had to get through that year, and now I've come out stronger, and I'm very, very happily married. I'm just got the job I really wanted. I'm more settled now than I've ever been in my entire life. And it's probably because I got through that year. But at the end of that year, because I have actually been suffering with mental health issues since I was about 12, so from a very, very young age, for a very long time, it was only last year that I actually followed through trying to seek help from medical professionals. It's been something that I'd spoken with various doctors before about, but I hadn't gone to them and been like, you seriously need to help me. We're very lucky here that we do have the NHS. Yeah, sorry. But, that has really helped because I've ended up having to be on various medications, and it was something that I was always very much against for a very long time. I didn't want to be unnaturally putting things into my body and didn't want to rely on the chemical happy, but it was actually a very good thing for me to do. It's not right for everyone, but I wouldn't discount it if people are wondering if it would work for them or not, because I feel like it very much worked for me, but it's all down to personal perspective. But then also just trying to make little positive steps. Because I know when I'm starting to feel depressed again because I stop eating so well, or my house doesn't stay as tidy as it could, little things like that. So if I try and keep on top of eating good, because eating well makes you feel well, but still taking that time to have that space for yourself. And if that means that you have a week where you don't do any shows and you sit at home and binge watch First Dates, which is a very strange British program you probably love.
I'm sure I would.
Yeah, it's weird and great and brilliant. But if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. Don't worry about letting other people down, because if you are spending too much time worrying about letting other people down and not taking care of your own mental health, then you're letting yourself down.
Well, it's hard, isn't it, to find, like I said, to find that balance between pushing yourself and allowing yourself the time that you need, because when I know, a lot of people can probably relate to this, when you're in any sort of depression of any level, the things that are usually best for you are usually the things that you don't want to do at all. The things that will make you feel better is something that you're like, fuck no, I don't want to see anybody. Like, I don't want to do these things, So I went through, I had a rough, very rough start to my 2016, actually. It was a really bad few months for me. And the thought of performing, of even just seeing my girls, because I was living in Paris at the time, and my girls from my troupe Burlesque Moulin, even just seeing them was just overwhelming to me, and all of that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would have made me feel a little bit better, but I just couldn't handle it. And so it's finding that ability to listen to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that hard thing of you don't want to push yourself, but if you did, you probably feel better, but you just don't want to. And it's a very strange emotional state to be in, because you feel lonely, but you can't get yourself out there to stop that lonely feeling. You can't get yourself out there and be surrounded by people, because sometimes even then you might feel disconnected. I was quite lucky that I had a very, very supportive family and a very supportive husband. But I did also see that a lot of things and people and stuff in my life was toxic and negative and wasn't really helping me towards being the me I wanted to be. I'm sorry, that sounds so cheesy. It's weird, because if you cut out that sort of toxic aspect of your life, you think you're going to feel upset by it or worry about it, but it's actually a very liberating feeling. So I would say, if you've got that friend who's constantly like passive aggressive about things like, oh, those shoes are nice for you, that kind of thing,
I'll get gone
in your life. Exactly. Get it out. If you have someone whose Facebook feed is constantly upsetting you or pissing you off, you don't even have to delete them. You can just hide them from your timeline. That's it.
That was one of my favorite discoveries. You can do that.
You just need to learn those little tiny tricks that make you feel better. Those things that make you feel more positive. If you need to block out everything to do with Donald Trump on your Facebook because you don't even want to think about the end of the world, you do
Oh my
that. There's
I'm so sad.
you can block out all the Kardashian crap from your feed if you wanted to. It's make it full of nice, happy things. Start the trend yourselves. Post pictures that make you happy or that make you laugh, and just constantly put positivity out there because it does come back.
I agree. So it's obviously very important to have this kind of these surroundings of positivity, whether they're, on Facebook or just having these supportive people in your life. Are you an advocate as well of, external therapy and things like that?
Well, I've tried to get external therapy, but the one drawback from being on the NHS is that it takes about 6 months
Oh my goodness.
to get to see a therapist, because there is actually quite a high demand, which is, it's kind of a reflection of how society has been recently and the way that people have been trying to go about things, that this is such a big call for business. I would like to, and I know my little brother is having therapy sessions as well. Which is really great and positive for him, because he's had a bit of a hard few years as well, because he's only 17. He's recently come out as transgender, so he's going through his transition at the moment, but we found a therapist who is also transgender.
Great.
And actually not too far from where I live, so he's getting some absolutely wonderful support, and I would love to have a similar support on that. I think it's great that he's got that, and I'm only a little bit jealous. It's fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree, because we don't have the NHS and the wait time, but we just have the finances. I just financially cannot afford a weekly therapy session, unfortunately. But I am. I'm of the
saying I'm really, really depressed and stressed out because I'm so poor, and they're like, give me $200.
Yeah, right. Like that's not really how it works. But I'm of the opinion that I think therapy should be for everybody. I think it should be a standard thing, no matter if you feel like you are, quote, broken or not. Because right now it's a thing that you only really do therapy if there's a problem that needs fixing. I think I think it's hugely beneficial to have an external source to look at your life, in any situation.
I think it would be great if they had more available therapy for young people. As they're going through school or going through life, because if we learn how to control various aspects of ourselves, or like paranoia or anxiety, but also have the outsider opinion of how to develop and grow as a person, and if you're learning that from a really young age, that's going to be very helpful to get people through life, especially now with a lot of people not knowing what's going to happen with their future. Like everyone who was leaving school in the 90s and early 2000s had degrees in completely useless things. But if we teach younger people how to cope with these things, we probably won't have another generation of completely defunct adults who are constantly wandering around pretending they're still in their 20s when really they're 45,
Agreed, absolutely.
Yeah, if it was possible to teach younger people how to handle these sort of emotions and how to confront these things head on, rather than just tucking them away and not thinking about them and talking about them.
At least making them less taboo to discuss,
Definitely. Like even homosexuality and transgenders in schools, but for people to learn how to understand each other, even if it's not the norm. Younger people that they're the generation that I believe should not have problems with racism and homophobia.
Absolutely.
Should be past that. It's unfortunately are not, and we need to look into why that still exists. Why is there still so much hatred in the world when there doesn't need to be, because it's quite commonly acknowledged and accepted.
So if you were to just kind of sum up in a nutshell, any tips that you have for someone who is, I mean, I know mental health is a broad spectrum, so it's hard to give advice without knowing people's exact situations. But what would you say for a burlesque performer or cabaret or sideshow or whatever it is, a performer in our industry who is struggling with mental health issues? What advice would you give them?
I think my advice would be to look for those signs that are telling you you may need a break or you may need just to step away for a little while. Ignoring those signs generally don't help because it ends up spiraling. Especially for myself personally, I found that I very much spiraled because I tried to deny what was going on in my own brain. So you need to take that time to listen to what your brain, your heart, and even your body, because when you are depressed, your body does have it takes an effect. So you need to be sure that you're giving yourself that time to realize what your body is trying to tell you, which I know is difficult when you've been flying around and lugging suitcases everywhere because you probably feel battered and bruised anyway. But we still, mental health issues or not, we still all need to take that time and we need to learn how to self-care. If you feel like you need to go and ask for help, that is a great strength to be able to realize that and to make those motions towards a better mental health.
Absolutely, I agree, and I imagine whether that is just like a friend or a burlesque mama, like you said, or anything like that, or if it's someone on a
medical professional, or whether it be your Subway sandwich maker.
I do love those guys.
Yeah, they might be working on degrees in psychology. You never know.
Absolutely.
Get it for free. So for the cost of half a sub. Yeah, but I just think that people try to ignore what their mind and body is telling them too much. It is hard to stop being in denial of those things. It's hard to say, oh, I'm not doing great right now. But if you don't take that time, it's probably going to end up becoming a more difficult situation to control and to fix. And, we want nice, healthy, happy performers who are loving life, and we can do all of that together. Let's have a love-in.
I agree. I agree fully. Well, Millie, I think this is a really important conversation to be having, and I'm glad that we had the chance to at least, to continue it and add our voices to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been in the past few years that I've actually been quite open about my personal issues with mental health, and I did give a talk earlier this year at the Northwest Burlesque Society, and it was really hard to stand up and give a very open and very honest talk about some very, very hard times in my life. But if that ever helped anyone else and made a positive impact to others that might have been having similar things, then it's very much worth me having a slightly uncomfortable moment giving speeches or talking publicly, which I don't like to do, to get that message out there that, yeah, we might look happy on stage, but everyone's got something going on. Everyone may need a bit of help, and we all need to learn how to be there for each other in those circumstances.
Amen, sister. I agree. Snaps to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. And I would love to hear, I'm sure we both, would love to hear from anybody listening. If this has been something that you've been struggling with or that you have felt alone in the past, just know that you are not, there's a lot of us going through this. There's a lot of, whether it's burlesque or not, in the world, like this is a thing that really happens and none of us are alone. So I would love it if anyone listening, if you have thoughts on this or want to share your story or want to give inspiring words or want to tell us that you're having a rough time, we would love to hear and help and support and just be there to listen to you. So feel free to send an email. You can reach me at velvet@burlesquestripdown.com. And I know, Millie, you have an email address as well?
Yep, my email is millie@milliedollar.co.uk.
You can also, if you would like to share it a little more publicly, you can go to Burlesque Strip Down burlesque.com/Millie, and that's going to lead you to the show notes for this episode, where you can leave a comment at the bottom there, and we can have a kind of a more public conversation there. On my website, you can always leave a voicemail on the right-hand side of the page as well, if you'd like to share your voice, which I can either play on the episode, on a future episode, or I can keep private just for us, as you like. You can, and then there's always Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those good twattery things, like all of that good stuff as well.
Yep. Get the twatter.
Get the twattering. So we can have I'd love to have a conversation. I'd love to continue this conversation with you, with anyone who's listening, as public or as private as you might like. And I'm sure, Millie, you probably feel the same, right?
Definitely. I'm always offering my help and advice, and even just an ear to listen to various ailments and issues. Which, so
sweet.
It's, if I can help, then I will.
Thank you again, everyone, so much for listening today. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been interesting and gotten your brain going a little bit. That's all we can hope for.
It's got mine going, I'm sure.
Yeah, mine too. I know. I feel like my brain is like on overdrive. It just doesn't really know what to do right now, or what words to say, apparently. So once again, Millie, thank you so much for the amazing insights from our episode last Monday, as well as today here, discussing these really, really important topics. I really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I just hope I made some sense, because it's
absolutely
an elaborate subject. It's very hard to elaborate.
Oh, I agree. I agree fully. Yeah. And it's, it's a big thing. It's a big topic, which is why I'd love to continue it. So thank you again, everybody, so much for listening. Head over to burlesquestripdown.com/Millie to get all of the info from this and from her interview episode, and continue the conversation. Stay safe, everybody. Listen to your body, listen to yourself, do what's right, kind of for you, although I know that's much easier said than done. Because once we all have this kind of self-assurance, which then leads to confidence, right? Did I get it right, kind of? I don't know. I'm going to work on that. That's going to be my new thing. But once we're able to kind of have this self-assurance and build up this confidence and, be honest about who we are and what we're going through, then we can be sure that we will all stay sexy.
Yeah.